Well, here we are. Short story long, I was asked to make a podium. And I thought it might be fun to take you guys along for the ride. Now, full disclosure, I've never done this before. So is the lighting going to be great? No. Video quality? Not that perfect either. Editing? Well, I've never done that before, so don't expect much. But anyways, without further ado, let's do this. Now, I've got plans made up. Actually, that's something the student did as their final project. I don't think that's gonna fly. I've got my actual plans kicking around that I took and just mocked up off some really crappy thing that we bought off of, I don't remember the store, it doesn't matter, but it was awful. So I figured we'll pick up a sheet of plywood here and see what we can do. Here's that sheet of plywood I was talking about. I picked this up at the big box store this morning. A lot cheaper than anticipated, and it's pretty good quality too. You can see it's not quite Baltic, but she'll do the trick. Now there are some imperfections in here. You can see a couple knots that have been filled up. That shouldn't be an issue because we are going to be painting this anyway, so that really shouldn't matter at all. Oh, that's the shop assistant there saying it's time to get to work and stop yapping. So off you go. All right, so what I've done here, might be hard to see, is I laid out for the front of the podium here. Got my line set up. Now what's really important when figuring out your cut list is taking a good look at the sheet and seeing if there's any imperfections that you can work around. So for instance, down here in the corner, there's a big tear out. But with the way this angle works out, we're gonna cut it off for scrap anyway, so it's not gonna matter. Now, normally I would use the table saw to be doing most of the cuts, but because it's at an angle, what I've decided to do is build a track saw and just use the circular saw here to do that. The rest of the goods we should be able to do with the table saw and a cross cut sled. So we'll set that up, I'll show you what that looks like, and we'll get to making our first cuts. Okay, we got our track saw laid down here and clamped. So the idea with this is that the circular saw is going to be able to run along the guide and cut it flush with the line that we have put on here. I've also gone ahead and I put some foam spacers underneath it so we keep the floor from chewing the crap out of our blade. We don't want that to happen. So we'll do this side here, probably come across and do the top and then finish off with the other side. Fingers crossed this works out well, and let's get to cutting. All right. Sorry about the angle of this setup here. I've got my phone and a little clamp just hanging on my joiner. So I'm all ready to go. I got my safety glasses on, hearing protection, and we're gonna make this cut. This thing is loud. I even pooped the helper outside, so I don't hurt his ears. So we'll set ourselves up here. I already got the blade ready to go. Everything should be clear. So that's out of the way. And you're intact. That works surprisingly well. All right, cut number 2, ready to go. I just took a second and watched a couple of clips I already took, and whew, it's cringy, just the way I like it. I'm not gonna make you watch me cut this one or the other side. I'm just gonna get to it, and I'll see you when we got the front part of the podium all done. Well, here's our piece all cut out. Man, I gotta give these guys credit that do this all the time. This is a real pain in the keister, setting this up, filming, cleaning up, and remembering to hit record. As you can see, I did sweep up the floor here. That's slippery, and when you got to cut a large piece of 3/4 inch on the table saw by yourself, the last thing you want is the slippery floor. So let me take you over here to my cut list again, and I'll show you what we've set up here. By we, I mean me. I put all the light pieces alongside each other. So these are the two sides of the front that we just cut out. And you don't want to make repeated cuts if you don't have to. So we'll be able to take this to the table saw, rip it along the width here, a little bigger than what we need. And that'll give us some little bit of wiggle room to tidy up some miscuts if they happen. which tend to do when you're doing this by yourself. So I'll set that up, show you how that looks like, and we'll get to cutting. So when I built this workbench here, I made it the same height as my table saw so that I can use it as an outfeed table if I have to. You know, it's not just for holding my hat and my glass. There's actually some brain work that happens in there. And I've also got a little roller stand here just in case. Like I said, this isn't the funnest thing to do by yourself, but we'll get this going and we'll make our first cut. I got this set up at 11 7/8. Our finished piece is going to be 11 3/8. So that gives me about a ½ an inch of wiggle room there if I need it. Action shot. All right, I pooped the dog outside again. One of his goals in life besides keeping me company is trying to trip me down the stairs or get him away and do something dangerous. So if you're get him out of the way, get those odds back in my favor. Let's do this. Safety glasses. Alright, so this is where we're at now. I've got my front piece done, the long board for our sides, and we got to figure out how long to make these. Now we can't just take a measurement and go off of that because these sides are tapered. So it's going to add a little bit. So we're going to take a basic measurement here. And what do we got? 31 and a half, let's say for now. Let's make this 33 and a half, and that'll give us a lot of room to figure that angle out. I've got my crosscut sled in here. This runs on 2 guides. It's just going to make cutting this piece or cross-cutting it a lot easier because we'll be able to put it in there and slide the whole piece for our cut. Okay, so next thing we gotta do is figure out what this angle is right here. The best way to get an accurate measurement is, of course, not to measure at all. So what we're gonna do is this angle gauge, and we're gonna be able to figure this out and just transfer that mark onto our saw blade and make that cut. I've got it clamped here just to keep it vertical. I can't do 2 things at once and open that up with one hand, it just wasn't happening. So I've got this set up. We can see our angle here. It's pretty close. So we're going to tighten that down, transfer this to the blade, and cut our bottom part so that it runs flush and parallel with the bottom of our face here. So I got my angle set up, and I saw this coming. This sled is just made to do 90 degrees, so you can see that saw blade is going to bend into it. Now I built this table saw sled probably 10 years ago, and it's starting to show its age. It's a little worn out in the throat here, so I'm gonna send this away, cut through it, and hopefully have enough scrap material out of that sheet right there so I can build myself another one dedicated for 90s again. And this one will chalk up to making dados and bevels and whatever, so it's not a total loss. So we're gonna cut through this, get our first cut on the bottom, and then we'll trace out the top, and we should have 2 panels that fit real nice. Okay, so when lining that board up, I noticed that I have a high spot right here, and there's another one right down here where I didn't quite get a flush cut. Ugh, fingers are dusty. So I'm gonna hit it with a block plane, so I'm not getting the nice fit that I'm wanting, and I'm worried that's gonna affect my measurement when I make that second bevel cut. So I'll get to that and then keep rolling. Okay, so we got our pieces cut. I like the fit. We'll do fine. Look what we found here. Giant void, so we're gonna have to fill that up because eventually there will be a screw in there holding everything together, and we don't want that to split open, which will have a tendency to do just with the nature of this plywood here. Tell ya, pay $100 for a sheet of plywood and you still get little voids like that. Before we get to that though, what we're gonna have to do is cut a dado through the 2 sides, and that's gonna accept a shelf that's gonna be inside the center. We're gonna cut that up, fill that void, paint everything, and actually cut at the same time a rabbet here to attach these sides. One of the ways you could do this is just simply doing a butt joint, but that's not going to be real strong and has a tendency to kind of rock. So we're going to cut a groove in here, or a rabbet that's going to accept this piece, Glue it, screw it, clamp it together, and she'll be super strong. Stack set up in there. I'm not gonna go over how I did that. Don't just slap it in. There is a way to do it. If you are planning on doing this at home, look up some videos, look at instructions. But I'm not gonna go into that. What we gotta do now is set that blade so it's gonna cut halfway through our piece of wood. And like I mentioned earlier, we're not gonna measure, okay? Measuring is not the way to go here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pass it through this way, flip it over, pass it through this way until we have just a sliver in the middle, and that's gonna get us close enough to where we need to go. I'm gonna clamp my phone in this thing. It's gonna be a little shaky, but that's what it is, and you'll see what I mean. Oh yeah, that'll do. Oh, it's gonna scratch my screen. Now this is that offcut that we had from the first cut we made. We're just gonna use that as our test piece here. That's what we got left there. That's really darn close. We're gonna consider that good. Just did a little test cut here to see how the fit is. I got my fingers out of the way. Now, there's a wee bit of a gap. 3/4 inch saw blade, 3/4 inch material, 3/4 inch dado. Why is there a gap? I'll tell you why. So don't make these 3/4 of an inch. They're 19 millimeter. So why would they do that? I don't know. Same reason they make 2x4s, 1.5 by 3.5, and put lock nuts in places that are insanely hard to get at. Just to mess with you. That's why. We could shim it, but I did a little test here, and that shim, come on, focus, is way too small. See all that material we're gonna be losing? So we're just gonna make it work. Maybe I'll throw a shim in there. I don't know, nothing a little glue and some screws can't fix. Sheesh. All right, we're gonna have to take this blade out, straighten her up again, put the dado stack in. Before I do anything like that, I always like to make sure I unplug the saw. Don't want that thing turning on by accident with your arm in there. I tell you, there we go. Oh, I don't know why I started filming this in the first place. Pain in the butt. And we've already got this far. I'll seal it, I guess. Might as well keep going. So I just like to use this little machinist square just to make sure we're lined up, and look at that, we're pretty much bang on. You never want to do it on the tooth, right? That tooth is proud of just a little bit, so you want to make sure you're just on the blade here, and to me that looks pretty bang on. Off you go.